welcome to Celluloid Chronicles,
a historical movie podcast.
I'm Brick.
I'm Birdy. And we're here.
Yes, we have had a long break, but I think, what we've decided to do is just taking our time. I think that's best.
Yeah, it's going much better. And I hope you guys enjoyed our super deep dive into Killers of the Flower Moon. We were really happy with that, how it turned out and everything. And
I've really enjoyed my research for the movie side of Harriet. So taking my time and not feeling I'm on a crunch, I think, has made it more enjoyable. So
yeah, we were just saying we're not here for the money, we're here for you guys that are willing to listen, but we're not trying to collect people. So yeah. So if you do find us, that's awesome.
Welcome, and we hope you like it.
Yeah, we hope you like it. What are we here to talk about today?
We are here. We have watched the 2019 Harriet bioepic of Harriet Tubman. After we had recorded, I was just telling Birdy that after we had recorded Killers of the Flower Moon, I was worried because I had not seen Harriet before, and I was worried oh man, two really heavy movies back to back. She assured me no, this one there's a lot more hope. And it's true, watching it, even all the really terrible, horrible things, knowing where it's going, what the story is, what's going to happen. Let's be honest, Cynthia Erivo's performance.
I mean, of course,
holy shit.
She made the movie, especially because I've got notes on this film myself. It's as I was telling Brick earlier, is that off mic, that they got so many points correct that it's sad the points that they didn't get correct. So we'll be getting into those. But firstly, we did want to do a trigger warning. If you don't know anything about the movie, but obviously there will be depictions of slavery, abuse, physical and mental, murder, and violence against minorities. So this is all included in there. It's just not as graphic as Killers of the Flower, like Killers of the Flower Moon.
I forget his name off the top of my head. The guy that played Gideon. He is an amazing actor. Yeah. It's gonna sound like I'm talking shit, but I'm not. But the way that he portrayed his mental abuse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Holy shit.
Very insidious, and he was way too pretty for that role.
He was
so pretty.
Well, when at first, and I knew, so I knew because you had told me the family that's depicted in the movie is not the family.
I mean, it is, but it isn't. Yeah.
But like him specifically. So
yeah, Gideon's not real.
I don't know why, but I was hoping that he would have some kind of a redeeming.
First,
maybe at the end he'd be like, oh, I'm glad that's the white in me wanting to.
Wanting to bring him back.
So when it first showed him, I was like, oh, damn, that man is sexy. And then he started talking.
Pretty privileged, yeah. Right from the get-go, you think, oh, he's going to be her friend. Oh, no.
Nope.
No.
Not at all.
Complete opposite. I don't know if this will be a two-parter. We're going to do our usual where we're going to try to keep parts to about an hour and a half or so. But we'll find out in an hour and a half if this will be a two-parter. So, did you want to bring us in a little more?
Yes, 2019, and this is directed by Cassie Lemons. It was also co-written with her and Gregory Allen Howard. And just a couple notes. So throughout the film, Harriet has visions, and they refer to them as spells. And it's where she kind of zones out and she sees what's happening, what's going to happen. So when I say she has a spell, that's what I'm talking about. She's having a vision. Also, it starts with the name she was born with, Araminta, and she was called Minty, and she will change her name about roughly halfway through, I think. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to follow that. And for one of her brothers, Ben Jr., they call him Junia. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying it that way to be
flippant.
Funny. Yeah, flippant. It's when I looked it up, it was literally even spelled that way.
Yeah.
So I didn't want anybody to think oh, she's not taking this seriously.
Yeah, no, it's just the way they use the names in 1800s slang. Some of it you'll see in the South today. Definitely saw parallels to what still is today, but so there's going to be some of that. Okay, did you have anything else to add before?
No, if you want to give us an idea of...
Yeah, so since...
Our amazing lady here?
Yeah, so obviously this movie is about Harriet Tubman. The movie itself starts basically after she's already married. There's a little timeline jiggering there, but I'm going to try to bring us up to that point by giving some of the earlier actual history. As Brick mentioned, she was born Araminta Minty Ross to both enslaved parents. Then Harriet Rit Green, so her mother's nickname was Rit, but her mother's name was Harriet Green, and then her father's name was Ben Ross. Rit was enslaved by Mary Pattison Brodess, and later her son Edward. Ben was enslaved by Anthony Thompson, who actually became Mary Brodess's second husband and ran the large plantation near Blackwater River in the Madison area of Dorchester County, Maryland. So just to put that in perspective, in the movie, we see an Eliza Brodess, who's married still to her first husband in the movie. Her actual name was Mary. And I made this comment in my notes. Why do all these movies avoid the name Mary?
They really do.
If there's ever a movie where they need to change a name, it's always from Mary.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just too common for people. I don't know. And then her son, I know I had the original name. I don't even have his first name. Whatever the hell her first husband's name. What was it? Like, I think they said it in the movie. So
I think they did, but I was confused because, like, they talk about the Pattison farm. They talk about Brodess.
Yeah, because they didn't explain this part.
Yeah,
they didn't explain that there's two farms.
Yeah, and at one point I was like, so wait, there's 3 names. So okay, that makes sense that she had 2 husbands. So it was Pattison Brodess. But
so Mary Pattison Brodess was married to Mr. Brodess. This asshole, he died at some point, but they had a son named Edward, not Gideon. And then after the first husband died, Mary married Anthony Thompson. So that's where this Thompson farm came from. But since she's the one that inherited these slaves, which they did explain a little bit, from her family. So the Pattison farm. So there is like this large estate situation going on here.
Yeah, I got confused. And at one point I thought Brodess was the dad's first name.
Right? Because it does sound like a first name. Yeah.
And then at some point they say it again and I realized it wasn't. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Brodess.
But yeah, so there's no Gideon. There's no Eliza.
Okay.
There's Mary and Edward. And those are our main antagonists for the movie, for the history part of the movie. So obviously, because of institutionalized slavery and racism, Harriet Tubman's exact birth year and place is unknown. So her reported dates are interesting. By her own account, she was born in 1825. Her death certificate states 1815, and her gravestone says 1820. However, a historian named Kate Larson in Harriet Tubman's 2004 biography cites a midwife payment and a couple other documents that proposes March 1822, and that's a one that's most widely accepted. What got me, though, is this hugely famous woman, even while she was alive, she was very famous. And the damn person writing the death certificate can't even listen for the year right.
Right.
I'm assuming like her family and like those around her would know she at least said the year was 1825, right? They wrote 1815. To me, that's a typo, right? And then they wrote up the gravestone design with 1815 because, and then they 1820.
I wonder why they went with that instead of, because if anybody's going to know, so like before documents were found, if anybody's going to know, she would be the authority on when the fuck she was born.
At least, like closest to, or at least just go with what she says. Right.
She's going to have the closest general idea.
Yeah. Which was 1825, 1822. That's pretty damn close. So
they should have just listened to her.
They should have just listened to her, but also like transpose, like changing a 2 to a 1. So they got that wrong on the death certificate from what I think is a typo. but then they just get it all wrong on the gravestone. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, what we do know about the Ross family is that her maternal grandmother, so the mother of Rit Ross, was named Modesty, and she arrived in the U.S. on a slave ship from Africa. So obviously there isn't much other information on her ancestors, but her mother, who may have had a white father actually, was a cook for the Brodess family. Her father was a skilled woodsman who managed the timber work on the Thompsons' plantation. Ben and Rit married around 1808, and according to court records, they had 9 children together.
Damn.
Lena, and I don't know, Linah, Lena, Mariah Riddy, Soph, Robert, Minty, who we know as Harriet, Ben Jr., Rachel, Henry, and Moses. After having 9 kids, Rit fought to keep her family intact, but Edward Brodess, so this is the plantation's son, but now basically the owner at this point, sold her daughters, Lena, Mariah, Riddy, and Soph. So actually sold off 3 of her daughters. In the movie, they only say 2. I don't know why, but when a trader tried to buy her youngest son, Moses, Rit hid him for a month, aided by other slaves on the plantation. And she confronted Brodess, where she famously threatened, "The first man that comes into my house, I will split his head open."
Hell yeah, Rit.
So Brodess abandoned the sale at that point, and this is one of the profound acts of resistance that shaped Harriet Tubman's belief in the power, in that power.
That is great.
So as Harriet grew, I'm just going to say Harriet Tubman, she was actually whipped as a child from age 5 or 6, and while minding the white babies. So she was, as a 5 or 6-year-old, she was taken to take care of the children of the family.
That's like putting my daughter in charge of a baby.
Yeah.
God.
Yep. And then whipping her for it. You know, if the baby even cried. Some of the stories just talked about, like, if the baby cried, she'd get whipped. So, yeah. And then she was later hired out to James Cook, who was another planter. She had to check his muskrat traps in the marshes even after she contracted measles.
Oh my God.
Yeah, until she became so ill that James Cook returned her to Brodess, where her mother nursed her back to health. And then he hired her out again. So whatever these asshole supremacists say about slavery not being that bad, like, what?
Oh yeah,
shit.
The way they're trying to rewrite it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, they gave him a home.
No, they didn't.
Food.
They didn't hurt them because they were property. They didn't want goods. Oh, they did.
Did you? I don't know what school this was. I don't know what state it was, but I just saw something recently. A parent had taken a picture of their child's a test that they had done.
Oh, God.
And one of the, I don't think they used the word benefits, but basically like what was happened during slavery. And it was something like, many Africans chose to come to America to work for the families in exchange for their passage to America.
That's
so, yeah, we are so hardcore rewriting history. It's fucking insane.
No, that was the Irish. Which, had its own problems, but wow.
Yeah.
And then as she grew older, she was assigned field and forest work, lots of outside work, because she actually, there was a couple notes that she hated being inside because she was around the owners too much.
Hey.
So she actually preferred to be outside. Field and forest work, driving oxen, plowing, and hauling logs. Here's the famous story now. As an adolescent, so around 13, people think, she suffered a severe head injury when, while she was running errands at a local store, she witnessed another enslaved person's attempted escape. Other stories say he was refusing to work, or he wasn't doing what his person was telling him to do, basically. She refused to assist the freedom seekers and slaver in capturing the fugitive, and an overseer threw a 2-pound metal weight intending to strike the enslaved man, and she was struck instead, so breaking her skull, and I quote, "Bleeding and unconscious, she received no medical care for 2 days."
God.
Some stories, they laid her out on like a piano bench and just, for 2 days, her mother wasn't allowed to tend to her, I guess to see if she survived or not. And then her mother was allowed to tend to her. And she remained in a coma for weeks following the incident before she woke up. I kind of wish they would have explained that a bit more.
Yeah, they give a different... They changed the origin up.
Following that incident, she started to suffer from chronic painful headaches and seizures, often appearing unconscious while she claimed she was still aware. Some scholars suggest the attack suggested that it caused temporal lobe epilepsy, and perhaps due to that brain injury, it caused narcolepsy or cataplexy. And this obviously continued throughout her life. And these are what it seems like she thought her spells came from.
Okay.
So this led to what Tubman believed was visions and vivid dreams that she saw as divine revelations, which deepened her already passionate Christian faith. Even though she was illiterate, she was guided by her mother's Bible stories, and while likely attending a Methodist church, her actions from there were driven by mystical inspiration. She rejected the white preacher's calls for enslaved people to be passive, instead finding guidance and a model for deliverance in the Old Testament, and that perspective informed her life's work. I found it interesting in the movie that they were kind of conjoining some people, that they only showed the black preacher. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they show like some white preachers in there? Because they were definitely more common. There was black preachers, but for obvious reasons, they didn't like them all congregating together without a white presence there. So, all right. As Brick will talk about in the beginning of the movie, Anthony Thompson, so Mary/Liza's second husband, promised to free Tubman's father at 45, and his son honored that in 1840. So then Tubman's father worked as a timber estimator and foreman for the Thompson family. So you see that's why he lives in another cabin. So later in the 40s, Tubman paid $5, which is about $170 in today's money, to a white lawyer to investigate her mother Rit's status. The lawyer did find that Rit and her children were to be freed when she turned 45, and any born after that would be freeborn, according to Athau Pattison's will. So that's Mary Brodess's grandfather, kind of like they say in the movie. So the inheriting families obviously ignored this stipulation, and obviously Tubman could not legally enforce it. So we kind of saw that in the movie. So there was these different things going on where people could will freedom for slaves, because I think 45 was a usual age for that, because at that point they can't work as hard as they did. Right. So they've lost value. They're kind of used up at that point. So sometimes they freed them, but obviously people didn't always listen to that, and even lawyers and laws and wills didn't matter. Yeah. So that's kind of what we saw. So that was true, but just a little different since they're merging some people around. And that brings us up about to that point. I know in the movie they show that Harriet's already married, but she wasn't technically married right at that point. So now we'll get to the actual movie. Brick, please bring us in.
Okay. Well, we see Harriet at this time, Minty. She's lying in a field. She's just coming out of a spell. And her husband, John, has found her to tell her that they have received the letter that they've been waiting for. And this is the letter from the lawyer that Birdy was talking about. They and her father, Ben Ross, they go to the main house where a black preacher, Reverend Green, is giving a sermon to the other slaves and the white family. And he's telling the slaves that to get to heaven, they must be obedient to the slave masters. But after this sermon, Ben, John, they are both free, and Minty, they approach the family, and John explains that he and Minty want to start a family, but they want to be sure that their children are born free. And he explains about hiring the lawyer and looking into the last will and testament, and that Minty's mother should have been freed at 45, all of her children, and any children that they have should be born free. But at this point, Rit is now 54, still enslaved, as well as all of her children. Minty points out that this also means the family having previously sold Minty's sisters when Rit was already 46 means that that was an illegal sale, but she concedes that her sisters are lost to the family. They have no idea where they've gone, but the rest of the family should be freed and her children born free. The Brodus guy, Anthony? Something.
No, I don't know. It would be Anthony Thompson at this point, but they're still saying it's Brodus.
So he gets pissed off and he rips up the letter and he's telling Minty that he owns her and that he will own her children. Rit tells him off, which I love, knowing now what we do.
Which it kind of is perfect, yeah.
Right. She tells him off and tells him that he's the devil. Brodus says that John and Ben, since they do not live on his property, they are banned from the property. They are no longer allowed to come here. They're no longer allowed to interact with his slaves. So basically, he's banning them from seeing their family.
Yeah.
So Minty, she takes off. She's upset. She runs. And this is where I had a thought of that Gideon was at least going to be wanting better for her. The father tells him, if it wasn't for you, I would have sold her a long time ago. And he looks upset. So I did have a moment of like, oh, good. At least she's got one person looking out for her in that family. No. Minty runs into the woods and she's kneeling. She's talking to God and telling him, Brodus is an evil man. And she asks, if you can't change him, take him. Gideon has followed her and he recounts this story of when he was a child and he had typhus and he woke up and he found Minty, and he says that his father has told him, having a favorite slave is like having a favorite pig. And I'm not going to recount the story. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Basically ends with no matter how it ends up, killing her or selling her, it's not going to matter to him in the end. See, I believe it's that night she has a vision of Brodus. And we hear Eliza screaming, Brodus has died. Mm-hmm. And Gideon is now head of the family. This whole time, like during the funeral, he's just glaring at her. Which I'm assuming he heard her praying.
Yeah. They kind of implied that he heard her praying. So I'll catch us up a little bit, again, with timelines and stuff. Love this with biopics. They can't follow it note for note. I understand. Anyway, so actually, Harriet married John Tubman. So her first husband, who is a free black man like they depict in the movie. They married around 1844. And as it's mentioned, their marriage was complicated by her enslaved status, as it was law that any children born to a woman in slavery are also enslaved. But these blended marriages were actually common on Maryland's eastern shore, where they are, where about half the black population was actually free, and most African American families had both free and enslaved members. So this was actually really common. And they think eventually they did want to purchase Harriet's freedom, but obviously things happened before that. And it was actually after she married that she changed her name from Araminta to Harriet. Oh, okay. So it was not after she ran away. It was actually after she got married. The exact timing is debated. They think it was right after the wedding, and there are some sources that link it to her planned escape from slavery. Others think it was actually a reflection of her a possible religious conversion or just honoring another relative after her marriage. And before she actually, as a kind of a cute note, in her final years on the plantation before she escaped, she was a familiar figure in the fields. She was a prime field hand, and she was described as a small, muscular woman standing 4'11", yet carrying half cords of wood like any other man in the fields. She was often seen with her skirt looped around her waist and a vividly colored bandana tied around her head. And as a note on that preacher that we saw, so like I mentioned, he was a black preacher. He is actually based on he did not necessarily preach like they showed in the movie, but it's a little possible. I don't know. His name was Reverend Samuel Green. He was a slave and then a freedman and a minister and an Underground Railroad conductor. So he had the full gamut too. Like, he's actually pretty interesting, but I'll do a little deep dive on him. After a incident called the Dover 8 incident, which had to do with another group of escaped slaves in 1857, so this was later on, he was convicted of possessing Uncle Tom's Cabin, the book, which apparently was banned at the time, and he was sentenced to 10 years in jail. But the Maryland governor, Augustus Bradford, wow, pardoned him in 1862 after 5 years. He was an African-American lay minister and a founder and trustee of Mount Zion Methodist Church, which is now called Faith United Methodist Church in New East Market in Maryland. Post-Civil War, he co-founded and worked at the Centenary Biblical Institute, now Morgan State University, which trained men for ministry. His family belonged to Baltimore's Orchard Street United Methodist Church as well, and he actually may have been related to Harriet Tubman's mother, Harriet Green.
Okay.
So there's no proof of that, but they were in the same area, around the same age. So it kind of makes sense. He could be a younger cousin or something. So we'll find very quickly that a lot of the people that are like in this film with like 5 lines or 5-minute scenes are actually have whole movie-sized histories themselves.
Okay.
So continue on.
So sometime after the funeral, Gideon has decided that he's going to sell Minty, and he starts putting up signs. He starts putting up notices. They describe her slave for sale, fine looking girl.
Yeah.
And I remember that, I don't remember where it was, that museum that we went to, and they had the slavery exhibit. And there was a lot of those signs. There was a lot of those, and just really disgusting. Like, describing them basically like you would, like, oh, I have a horse for sale. And while she's chopping wood, Minty has a vision, and she sees her sisters having been sold and a horse breaking free of its harness. And she sees an overseer walking across her, and she knows what's going on. She runs. She runs into her husband, John, who is looking for her because he has read the sale notices. He knows she needs to get away. John, he wants to run with her, but she believes this is too dangerous because as a free man, if he is caught assisting in an escape, he will, at the very least, lose his freedom, or he could potentially even be killed. She does relent, though, and she asks him to meet her at the main gate. She needs to say goodbye to her mother. She runs to the field where her mother and her brothers are working, and she begins to sing a song. So this song was actually written for the movie, but I do like that they include singing spirituals as a way of delivering messages and delivering information.
That's all true.
This song specifically, though, was written for the movie. I have the composer in my fun facts. Cool. Begins singing this song to tell them that she has to go. I'm sorry to leave you behind, but she's going to see them again. And in the cabin, she draws a heart on the dirt floor for her mother.
Yeah.
She sees John at the gate waiting for her, but she leaves him behind and she runs to her father's house. When it gets dark, John, he's realized that she's left and he starts to leave, but Gideon sees him and demanding, why are you here? And he says he just came to tell Minty goodnight. He just wanted to kiss her goodnight. But as he's leaving, an overseer rushes over to tell Gideon that Minty is gone. Gideon starts to question John again, and he sticks to, I was just here to say goodnight, and he ends up pistol whipping him. We find out later that he loses sight, I believe, in his left eye. And Minty, when she arrives at her father's house, he looks and he sees her in the window, and when he lets her in, he keeps his eyes down so that he can honestly say he did not see her.
Yeah, I kind of love that.
But he does tell her that he can see her heart, which that was heavy.
It was very sweet. Yeah.
And when she explains that they're planning to sell her, he knows that she has to run, and he starts packing her some food, tells her to go to Reverend Green and ask him to pray for her journey. And she says no at first because he preaches obedience, but she does agree to go. Before she leaves, Ben, her father, gives her a small wooden carving. It's a little face, his head. When she arrives at the church, Reverend Green brings her in right away and asks her if this is really what she wants, because running is very dangerous, especially alone, which she'll be traveling by herself. But when she says that they're planning to sell her, he begins instructing her where to go, what
like point by point.
Yeah,
he knew exactly
follow
what
the
to
North
do.
Star, follow the river. You're gonna come to this bridge,
which she doesn't question at all.
Yeah,
I mean, okay.
Tells her to get to Wilmington and find a white man named Thomas Garrett. So she runs, and in the morning when she wakes up, she has a vision of the slave catchers. She hears them. They are coming after her. Well, she finds the bridge that Reverend Green had told her to look for, but the slave catchers are behind her, and Gideon is ahead of her on the other side of the bridge. She climbs up on the railing, and this is one of those manipulative mental abuse where Gideon, he's trying to convince her to return, and, basically...
It'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
We won't hurt you.
No, I've decided... I think he says, I won't hurt you much.
I won't hurt you much.
God. I've decided not to sell you.
Not to sell you.
And...
Because you're my favorite, basically.
Yeah, basically. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the points where he says something along the lines of, like, I know you like me. You prayed for me.
Right.
Don't you want to see your family? And you want to come home, don't you?
Yeah, it was real gross.
And she tells him, I'm going to be free or die. And she jumps into the river. They do look for her, but they don't find her. So they assume that she's dead. But she's washed ashore further down the river. She is alive. She sees a barn, field, and workers. And she climbs into this wagon of hay and she hides in there while the driver, he gets in and he starts to leave, and it seems like they travel overnight, and like at one point they pass another wagon that has other slaves going the opposite direction. But he gets to this kind of crossroad and he gets down and he says, I know you're there, it's time to get out.
I love that part, like, because she was very obvious to me.
Right.
Like, I mean, how did you think the guy wouldn't notice his cart changing?
Yeah, but I mean, hey,
he let it happen. He let it happen.
He never gave any indication to anybody around him. Honestly, I think it's smart that he waited until he got to where he had to drop her off, because she could have gotten scared and jumped out.
And he waited. I wonder if, like, they made that based on some story. I would like to know if there was actually a story by some slave maybe that they happened to, because that's kind of how a lot of them did escape, was just a lot of white people not being dickheads. Like, they didn't do much to fight the system, but
they didn't turn him in. They didn't turn him in
either. So I got some things. So basically covering when she starts her escape. So, and why she actually escaped, which a lot of little nuanced details that they kept, but then a lot of weird things that they changed. So in 1849, so she's about 5 or 6 years married to John Tubman. Harriet actually fell ill again, because she did actually have a history of being kind of sickly, which is interesting, even before her attack. So, but she fell ill, and that reduced her value. So Edward, as we know him as Gideon, tried to sell her. And he actually failed in his attempt to sell her, but she got mad at him for trying to sell her and for enslaving her relatives. So she actually started praying nightly for Edward Brodus to change. But when a sale seemed imminent, she changed her prayer. Oh Lord, if you ain't never going to change that man's heart, kill him, Lord, and take him out of the way. So she did say that, only harsher. And Edward Brodus died a week later. So, I mean, that's quite a coincidence. And this is the son. So I don't know how old Edward Brodus was at this point, but Tubman later talked about regretting wishing for that. But I mean, so at this point, Gideon's supposed to be dead.
Okay.
But, you see what they did here, right? They needed an antagonist, a specific one. They needed a face, so they made this Gideon person. But as with many estate settlements, Brodus's death increased the risk that Tubman would be sold regardless and her family separated, prompting Edward Brodus's widow, so this would be Gideon's widow, Eliza. So they gave the wife's name Eliza to the mother. So the widow, I'm just going to call her the widow, began selling the enslaved people. This is the point where Harriet refused to wait for that and declared there was one of two things I had a right to: liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. Kind of what she said, which I really find interesting, and I wish...
They do give her that line later on.
They do. No, I just... because wasn't it give me liberty or give me death?
Yeah.
From the American Revolution.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
I forget who said it. Sorry. I know. Bad history. That's not... The Revolution... The American Revolution is not my strong suit. So anyway, so she did kind of say that, and her husband did try to dissuade her from leaving. But in 1849, so that same year, along with her brothers Ben and Henry, they escaped from slavery on September 17th. And this was after they were hired out Anthony Thompson's plantation, probably his descendants, in Poplar Neck, Caroline County in Maryland, also, which, since they had left their main plantation, this delayed the widow from realizing they had escaped. So basically what happened was they got hired out, and then after they left, they escaped.
Okay.
So people weren't, sure where they were.
Gotcha.
It was 2 weeks later that the widow posted the runaway notice and offered up to $100 US each for their capture, which was a lot of money back then. So, however, her brothers actually regretted the decision, perhaps due to Ben having a family, and they returned, forcing Tubman to go back with them. Then, the next month, in October or November, she escaped again alone. And this is when she left. She hinted at her departure to a trusted slave, Mary, by singing, "I'll meet you in the morning, I'm bound for the promised land." So kind of like she did, but in the movie, they did it to her mom, which makes sense. And she did use the Underground Railroad, a network of free and enslaved Black people, white abolitionists, especially Quakers, which we'll get to, near Preston, Maryland, and other activists. She likely followed a common 90-mile route northeast along the Choptank River through Delaware, north into Pennsylvania, which would have taken about 5 days to 3 weeks on foot, depending on the time. I know they showed her a lot of... It must have been a filming decision to film a lot in the daytime. I mean, they did have some night scenes, but and I thought this was true from when I learned about the Underground Railroad. But anyway, Harriet mostly traveled at night, guided by the North Star to evade slave catchers. The conductors of the railroad used deceptive tactics. For instance, at one stop, Tubman was told to sweep the yard to appear to be a family worker before being hidden in a cart and moved.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's interesting. Her knowledge of the environment likely allowed her to hide in the woods and marshes during the day. Details of her initial escape route are unknown because she kept the route secret to protect others that were using them after she escaped, so she didn't discuss them until later in life.
She's so fucking cool.
I know, right? But my whole thing is that in her whole escape, they never mention her jumping in a river. And this will come up later, slightly spoilers as we talk about the entire movie, but did they really add the whole jumping in the river thing just to give John an excuse to remarry, to think she was dead?
I guess.
Because in her actual escape...
That and maybe like escaping from the bonds of slavery isn't dramatic enough.
I was just thinking, because in all the indications, in both historically and in the movie, despite that one scene, there is nowhere to say that anyone thought she was dead.
Okay. See, I assumed that at least something similar to the river thing happened, even if it wasn't exactly what they showed.
I thought that would be the case too, but there is no story where they would have thought she actually died.
When she does make it to Wilmington, I liked this scene. She goes to a boatman, a Black gentleman, and she asks him where to find Garrett, and he gives her a blanket because at this point she's pretty disheveled.
Yeah, disheveled is an understatement.
Yeah. He gives her a blanket and he tells her, to be careful because anybody can tell what you are. He's looking out for her. Tells her how to get to him. She finds Garrett, and as soon as she confirms that, yes, he is Garrett, Reverend Green sent me, and she just passes out from exhaustion.
Yeah.
When she wakes up, she is safe. They've taking care of her, and Garrett brings her by wagon to the Pennsylvania border, and he offers, do you want me to bring you across, or would you like to walk? And she chooses to walk herself across.
I love that. Yeah. That was
Oh,
really
sorry.
good. That scene got me too.
And he gives her a photo, tells her, you're going to look for the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society, and you're going to find a man named William Still. Gives her a photo so she knows it's him, which I hope that was something that they actually did, because that is
Those
genius.
little photos, I thought that was amazing. I don't know. I didn't see too much on that, but photography was really taking off at this point.
Because you have to be so careful with who you trust.
Well, that and also the expense of those little, what we call wallet photos now would have been like, I was like, did they just print off these stacks of them? Because that would be so expensive.
Well,
Everyone's
and he had
like
several people.
Yeah, so it's like $10 each, I assume, or something. Like, that was a lot of money.
It's so cool.
But that was really cool. She made it. So, and I have a couple quotes from her, not to make Brick cry more, but I have a couple quotes directly from Harriet Tubman on thinking back on when she crossed over. And I quote, "When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven." So you did see her hold up her hands.
That's a really beautiful scene.
It was really beautifully done. In another quote, she talks about God's time, meaning emancipation, is always near. He set the North Star in the heavens. He gave me the strength in my limbs. He meant I should be free. And this was Harriet Tubman talking to Edna Dow Cheney in New York City in 1859. So yeah, it was quite a time. So, we're talking in the decade before the Civil War, basically. And it should be noted that abolition was truly spreading during this time, and the Underground Railroad, which I didn't know this. I really want to do a large deep dive on the Underground Railroad itself at some point. I'm sure there's another movie we can cover, but we wanted to focus more on Harriet here. The Underground Railroad had been active since the late 1700s. So like, it had been, according to some sources, it's been going for 60 years before the Civil War.
I didn't know it would be
I didn't
that long.
know that, right?
Researching for this, I do have a couple books that I've ordered, and one of them is specifically about the Underground Railroad system. So I can definitely let you borrow that.
Yeah, and I might cover more of that in my outtake episode as well, because it was fascinating, and I need to know more. Anyway, but at this point, everything was really moving quickly at this point. The tensions are ramping up. The slavery laws are ramping up, all of that. So, and obviously everyone should know that the Civil War was literally about to happen. So then I have a little deep dive on the guy we meet, Thomas Garrett, who's only in this movie for 5 minutes, but has an amazing history all his own. So he was born August 21st, 1789, and he made it all the way to January 25th, 1871. So yeah, pretty good. He was an American Quaker and an abolitionist. He helped over 2,500 African Americans escape slavery via the Underground Railroad. And that was before the Civil War. And that's despite threats, harassment, assault, and a $10,000 bounty. So this guy. So I tried to shorten. So I'm going to be a little all over the place here. I really tried to shorten this little deep dive as best I could, but I recommend everyone looking this guy up. So,
I have no basis for this. I'm just assuming, but I'm assuming that the vast majority of white abolitionists that were assisting were probably Quakers.
Right. Oh, yeah. The Quakers are fascinating. And they're like, I do shit on Christian denominations a lot. But the Quakers, they're one of the good ones.
Yeah.
They're one of the good ones. Everyone I've met, every history I've ever seen, they're like the real deal.
Yeah.
They're like what everyone should have, every historical Christian should have been.
And I know he wasn't a Quaker, but like I said a while back that Mr. Rogers.
Oh yeah, he would be a Quaker.
Yeah,
like
he was the Christian that Christians think they are.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, and I think this guy too. So after Thomas Garrett's his father's death in 1839, his family's original farm was divided with some land preserved as Arlington Cemetery.
Oh.
His house, Thornfield, was built around 1800 and still stands as a private residence in Upper Darby, Maryland, I assume. And Garrett was the inspiration for the character of Simeon Halliday in Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin.
I've not read that, so
I have not either. I just know some of it.
I remember seeing a play.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different things about that book.
I remember seeing a play, but I vaguely remember it from elementary school.
Yeah, I don't think we read it, but I think we read passages from it in school. So yeah, it's definitely something I need to look back on. But he openly worked as an Underground Railroad station master in Delaware. And
he was open about it.
Yeah.
He was a badass. Okay.
Yes. And he collaborated with William Still, who we'll meet, and John Hunn. So authorities knew of his activities, but he was never arrested for them. He was a friend and benefactor to Harriet Tubman and frequently provided her with lodging, money, and shoes, which we kind of see a little scene of that in the movie, and helped rescue her parents later on. In 1848, he and John Hunn were sued and convicted under the Fugitive Slave Act for helping the Emmeline and Samuel Hawkins family escape. Presided over by U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger B. Taney, Garrett received a $4,500 fine, later reduced to $1,500, which financially ruined him. Despite this, he declared in court his intent to continue helping fugitives.
Oh, that's great.
And aided by friends, he sustained his iron and hardware business and continued his abolitionist work. By 1855 to 1856, nearly 50 fugitives he helped reach New York. And there's more on him, honestly, but this guy. Okay. And then, as we will meet soon enough, William Still.
Yes, tell me about this.
Yeah, so
this guy.
And again,
awesome.
I'm really shortening this Cliff Notes, but
even just the tiny little bit that they show in the movie, I was like, he's got to be a fucking badass.
That's what it's like. There's not enough in this movie. That's what I mean. I can't even speak. But William Still lived between 1819 and 1902 and was a prominent African-American abolitionist, Underground Railroad conductor, businessman, writer, and civil rights activist based in Philadelphia. As chairman of the Vigilance Committee of the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society, he directly aided at least 649 fugitive slaves, meticulously recording their stories to help with future family reunifications, just like the show.
Oh, okay. I wonder why he did that.
Yep,
okay.
It was what he actually did. He was thinking ahead.
That's awesome.
This is someone knew this would be history.
Yeah.
So, born in Chemung Township, New Jersey, Still was the youngest of 18 children to former slaves Charity and Levin Still. His parents had both escaped slavery in Maryland. Charity escaped twice. The second time with only her two youngest daughters, leaving two older sons enslaved, unfortunately. One son, Levin Jr., was whipped to death after that escape. The other, Peter Still, later escaped and, in seeking his family, unknowingly met his brother William at the Anti-Slavery Society.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yep. William recognized his mother's history in Peter's story, leading to the reunion after 42 years. The story itself is really neat. I know. This one's really getting to you. And then another brother, James Still, became known as the Black Doctor of the Pines after he escaped. So some of these stories were just amazing. William Still started as a clerk for the Anti-Slavery Society in 1847 and became chairman of the Vigilance Committee after that. His home at 625 South Delhi Street was an underground railway way station as well. He was involved in high-profile cases, including the 1855 rescue of Jane Johnson and her sons, who successfully asserted their freedom under Pennsylvania law after having to go to court for it. Still, also successfully challenged public transit segregation in Philadelphia, leading to a state law integrating streetcars all the way back in 1865.
Damn.
Yeah. So William Still is known as the father of the Underground Railroad. He helped up to 800 slaves escape, including providing support to Harriet Tubman. He preserved his records, publishing them in 1872 as the Underground Railroad Records, ensuring the stories of the escaped slaves and the system were documented. And that's just, again, a snippet. So, Brick, continue on. But yeah, if I can say anything about this movie, it introduced me to a lot of people. But I feel like there could have just been a few bits more of this put in there.
Mr. Still, when she gets to him, I love his face when she says, Reverend Green sent me, or Thomas Garrett, and he realizes that she's escaped, and he's just like, his face just lights up. He's so...
Oh, yeah, because he like says, yes, who's he looking for?
Yeah.
Oh!
He's like, oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes. So he starts gathering her information. This is where we learn. So in the movie, the story is changed that when she was 13, she went with Gideon to a store, but her brother did not trust Gideon to be alone with her, and he followed. An overseer was looking for him.
Oh, right. They turned it into her brother. See, I forgot that part. Yeah.
And when the overseer threw a weight at her brother, Minty stepped in front of it and took the weight to her head instead. And she was unconscious for nearly 2 months.
Yeah.
And she said that when she woke up, she saw her sisters being sold, but she saw it before it actually happened. And she said that she believed this was God preparing her for the loss. And she says that the injury opened her up to receive God's voice. I can't fault him. You see him quietly write possible brain damage.
I mean, it's true.
I can't fault him for that.
I can't fault him for that. Yeah, but it was a little nice little thing.
You know what? The shit that she saw came true and helped her. So
this is one of those stories where it's like you really make you like, well,
like there's something.
It's probably rarer than people like to say, but it's there.
Yeah.
Something's there.
So this is where in the movie she chooses her own free name, Harriet for her mother and Tubman for her husband. So she will now be Harriet in our note. So Still, who... He's played by Leslie Odom Jr. He brings her to a boarding house run by Marie Buchanan, who is played by Janelle Monáe. Gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Marie explains that, yes, I am a Black woman. Yes, I was born free. Yes, I own this house. Yep. And she explains that her mother had been a slave, but she was freed after the slave master died while she was pregnant with Marie, meaning that she was born free. And when she's giving Harriet a tour, she tells her, you're going to need a bath. And she says, because she smells like a barnyard. And I think she was just trying to lighten the mood. Yeah, she was just trying to lighten the mood. But Harriet, she very calmly, she says, so you were born free? And when she says yes, she says, then you've probably never had the stink of fear or having to run for your life. And Marie concedes that she's right. She apologizes. And this is the start. She's going to be a wonderful friend to Harriet.
Yeah, and I also like this point where they play Cynthia Erivo plays Harriet very straight. She doesn't have much of a sense of humor.
Right.
And honestly, from what I've read about Harriet Tubman, she didn't have much of a sense of humor.
She's very serious.
She was a very serious woman. And that's okay. Like, she knew... But she was very determined and very get it done.
Yep.
And I think that's what Cynthia Erivo is playing here. I think, if anything about this movie, is that Erivo's performance felt like it could be Harriet. Because, little diminutive woman gonna bite your ankles.
Mm-hmm.
So
Marie, she's asking Harriet, do you have anyone? And Harriet tells her that she had to leave her husband behind and it was to protect him. But Marie tells her that the Blackjacks, a crew of black boatmen, they can try to get word to him. And we see 1 year later, she has helped Harriet. She is now working a paid job as a maid. And she stops at the docks to ask Jasper, one of the Blackjacks, if there was any word from her family, and Jasper confirms that they were able to get word to her husband that she is alive in Philadelphia, but no, he did not send a return message. which at that point, because like I said, or at least I told Birdy, I try not to look up the histories. I want this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I want, when Birdy tells us, I want it to be fresh. So I was just thinking like, oh, he was just so relieved. He's like, okay, cool. Thank you.
No.
All right.
And they play him too nicely again.
And
let me just throw in a quick note on Marie Buchanan, who I had seriously hoped was real. She did not exist, sadly. They note her as an amalgamation of historical figures and the women who did help women like Harriet come to the North and make a better life for themselves. Monet, who played Marie Buchanan, viewed her character as someone who used her privileged position as a free Black woman to convey the message that one person is not free until everyone is free, which I really like the sentiment. It's just like there was no one you could have actually picked in Philadelphia. Yeah. I mean, you found Reverend Samuel Green, and you had no idea if he actually preached to that plantation or anything. Like, you couldn't find one free Black woman in Philadelphia to kind of work this into. I really like the character, and I get what they were doing, but it's like, yeah, all these amazing people, and then you make one of the main characters an amalgamation character. So that was just disappointing to me. But yeah, she wasn't real, but plenty of women, and maybe I'll add some of this in my outtake. I'm sure there was plenty of free Black women who were doing the same thing that have a true historical name.
Harriet, she goes back to Still, and she requests that he use his connections to get her husband and her family free. But unfortunately, he explains that they can't just go for targeted escapes.
Right.
And it's getting more and more dangerous because now federal judges, marshals, and slave catchers are now working together. And Congress is considering passing laws that would appease the South and make it harder. And this is what we're going to see later with the Fugitive Slave Act. So Harriet says she's just going to go on her own. And he's worried that she could get caught and compromise the entire operation. And he asks, can you read a map? Can you read signs? Can you read it all? And she says she'll just have to focus harder on hearing God.
I understand his hesitance.
Yeah. So Harriet goes to Marie and she asks her for help. And like a true down bitch, if you listen to I Think Not, you'll know. True badass, Marie helps her. She gets her a dress. She gets her a suit for John to wear. She arranges for her to have freedom papers that they belong to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And she teaches her how to walk and talk like a freeborn Black woman. And if all else fails, she teaches her how to use a gun.
Yes, that was cool.
Love it.
And Harriet Tubman did carry a gun. There's no knowledge that she ever used it or intended to use it, but she did carry one.
The papers that she's gotten, they belong to somebody else, but they're going to match close enough that she can use it. She takes a train to Delaware, and when she arrives at the station, she sees a row of slaves standing along the building. They're in chains, and a marshal who asks her for her free papers. And it's a really tense moment. He begins quizzing her on the details, but she's memorized everything. And she's even able to pass off the scar on her forehead as a birthmark.
Yeah.
And when he points out the height difference, because what's listed is like 5.5 feet and her actual height, he says, well, you know more than 5 feet. And she plays it off like, oh, I must have been wearing my high boots that day.
Right, which I liked. And she was real chill about it. Oh, as a side note, I just did see some of this in my research, but I don't think I have it pointed anywhere. Some sources say she got hit in the back of the head, and then there are other sources that she got hit where she keeps pointing around above her temple. I'm not sure the verdict is in on exactly where she got hit in the head or if she'd have like a visible scar.
And meanwhile, at this time at the Brodus farm, Eliza and Gideon, they're writing a letter regarding an overdue loan. I think it's to her brother-in-law. Gideon suggests that they sell Harriet's brothers, so this would be Henry, Robert, and Junia, and believes, they can get as much as $1,600. And at first, she doesn't want to, because apparently your social standing is determined by the amount of people you own.
Kind of true.
Yeah, it's just so gross. So Harriet, she goes first to her husband, John, but when she tells him she has come to bring him back with her, he tells her that he can't run. And when she first escaped, we know now that this probably did not happen, but in the movie, he was told she had died. And by the time he learned that she was alive, he was already married. He had remarried a free woman who was now pregnant.
Mm-hmm. And this is all within a year. Like, if she's already pregnant. See, this is where I'm like, they cover this shit up, but we're even in the movie, though, within a year after hearing that his wife might have died, he found a free woman, married her, and already has her pregnant. Yeah. Okay. But anyway,
I mean, if I were to die, I would like for my husband to eventually, but then move on and find somebody else.
I would hope
like,
that
miss me for a little while.
That's what I mean. Like, where's miss somebody for a little while? Like, I get why back in the 1800s there was the year of mourning, and you better not change your dress till after a year because, like, at least make it look good. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
obviously heartbroken, Harriet, she goes out, she goes to some trees, and she's asking God, why did you bring me here for this? And she goes into a spell, and she has another vision, and comes out of it, her father Ben is waiting for her. John has brought him to her. He's blindfolded so that he can again say he never saw anyone, and he tells her that he has her brothers in hiding and they're ready to run. So they go to the brothers and they meet Jane, who is fiancée to Junia, Phoebe, whose husband has died, and her daughter, Araminta, named for Harriet's original name. And Robert, he joins them. He had waited to see his wife safely give birth, and then he had to leave her and his newborn daughter. And I just want to say something real quick. So part of something that I came across on like a Reddit was a whole bunch of people saying terrible things about he had a wife and a newborn and he ran. He was about to be fucking sold.
Yeah, like he wasn't going to be there anyway. They made that point. Yeah. If you're going to be sold anyway, it's as good as you're going to be gone. So you can either be sold and have absolutely no hope of ever seeing them again, or you can run and try to make it so that they can join you later on. Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. That just really pissed me off. I'm like, do you guys not fucking pay attention?
No, that's it right there. Reading the first, it's like the people that read the first line in the email and not the rest of it. Anyway, this is interesting. So they squished a bunch of rescues into one. This is like 3 rescues.
Oh, okay.
So after she settled in Philadelphia, Harriet Tubman did start thinking about her family and her husband and wanted to figure out how to get them, basically. And I think she had more support than they kind of depicted in the movie. She was already like inducted into the Underground Railroad and everything. So in December 1850, she went back to rescue her niece, Keziah, and Keziah's children from being sold in Cambridge, Maryland. So she must have been hearing about these sales, and then she was kind of target rescuing people she knew. A lot of the people she rescued were friends and relatives and people like that, but I don't think that should diminish her contributions. They still needed to be saved regardless. So Tubman went to Baltimore and hid until the sale was coming up. And then Keziah, this I would have liked to see in the movie. So Keziah, her niece, had a husband, John Boley, and he actually went to the auction and bought the family at the auction. And then while the auctioneer ate his lunch, he, Keziah, and the children fled to a safe house.
Nice.
And then that night, Boley sailed the family 60 miles to Baltimore, where Tubman met them and took them to Philadelphia.
Oh, that's great.
And then early the next year, Tubman returned to Maryland, guiding her youngest brother, Moses, and 2 other men to freedom. These successful exploits obviously gave her the confidence and encouraged her family. So kind of set all this off. So that's 2 rescues, and she hadn't even gone for her husband yet. Then Tubman returned to Dorchester County in late 1851 to find her husband, John, only to learn he had remarried a woman named Caroline. He refused her request to join her, claiming he was happy. So, yeah, he didn't want to leave. No thinking she was dead. No, nothing of that. Like, this is Killers of the Flower Moon with Ernest all over again, where these movies, because they want to make this, with the actor playing the character look less bad, they give them some kind of excuse.
Yeah.
No, these men don't get excuses. No excuses for these men. Sorry. Concealing her anger, she turned around, located and guided another group of enslaved people to freedom in Philadelphia.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So she did do that kind of like they show in the movie where like, well, screw you, I'll take these people instead. She did do that. So just on a third run. As a note, note, these 3 trips were on or after the Fugitive Slave Act was already passed. So in the movie, they kind of show some of this before that act actually passed. No, she had already she started after it was already there.
She did not give a fuck.
She did not. God was guiding her, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like that God to be around in today's day and age. That'd be great. Anyway, so in December again of that year, she guided an unidentified group of 11 escapees northwards, which possibly included the bullies and several others that she helped rescue earlier. There is evidence to suggest that Tubman and her group stopped at the home of abolitionist and former slave Frederick Douglass.
Okay.
And Douglass and Tubman admired one another greatly as they both struggled against slavery. Years later, he contrasted his efforts with hers, writing, and I quote, "Most that I have done and suffered in the service of our cause has been in public, and I have received much encouragement at every step of the way. You, on the other hand, have labored in a private way. I have wrought in the day, you in the night. The midnight sky and the silent stars have been the witnesses of your devotion to freedom and of your heroism. Excepting John Brown, of sacred memory, I know of no one who has willingly encountered more perils and hardships to serve our enslaved people than you have." And he was speaking of Harriet Tubman, of course. And we'll talk about John Brown later. Bringing up Frederick Douglass, I'll get to his in a bit once we actually see him again, but I know he's only like in the movie.
Yeah, you see him twice.
See, that I felt like that was a full missed opportunity. Like, especially like even just that quote. They could have had at the end of the movie where he just kind of says that to her something. Yeah. Like one of the greatest, I'm sorry, Frederick Douglass, I should probably just do his deep dive now. It's going to feel a little out of place, but I might do it because he's one of the greatest orators and pursuers of justice that we have in our history, and also that amazing hair.
Yeah.
So they just have the guy standing there. I mean, the guy looked like Frederick Douglass. Like they picked
and that's really the only way, because they don't. He's credited. The actor is credited as Frederick Douglass, but they don't actually say that it's him. Nobody addresses him as Mr. Douglass.
Right. That's how you know his hair.
Yeah, that's how you know. And John Brown, he is actually in there twice.
Oh, see, I didn't even pick him out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm yelling. This is where I'm mad because like these amazing people.
Yeah, you see both of them twice. The first time, neither of them
speak. They're standing in that crowd.
And the second time they do have lines.
Missed opportunity. So, all right, I'm going to do this deep dive on Frederick Douglass. It's going to feel a little out of place, but again, he's barely in the movie, he's really important. Sorry. He was born Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey on February 14th, 1818, and he lived until February 20th, 1895. So he was an American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman. He was the most important leader of the movement for African American civil rights in the 19th century. I'm not disputing that. After he escaped slavery in Maryland in 1838, Frederick Douglass became a leading abolitionist. We can speak today.
I can words.
In Massachusetts and New York, and he was renowned for his powerful speeches and anti-slavery writings, which none were included in the movie. Abolitionists viewed him as proof against claims that enslaved people lacked the intelligence to be independent citizens. Because many Northerners doubted such a great speaker could have been enslaved, Douglass wrote his first autobiography. That's why I'm going, you don't think I was enslaved? Let me write a book for you. Frederick Douglass, he was an abolitionist and an advocate for freed slaves and women's suffrage. And he authored 3 autobiographies. Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass in 1845, My Bondage and My Freedom in 1855, and Life and Times of Frederick Douglass, first published in 1881 and then revised in 1892. His first 2 books were influential bestsellers. He also had several public offices, and without his consent, was nominated for vice president alongside Victoria Woodhull on Equal Rights Party ticket.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of Victoria Woodhull either, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm
sure she was a suffragist, I assume, or something.
I believe she was the first
you've
woman.
Heard of her? Okay.
I believe she was the first woman to run for president, but
she was taking Frederick Douglass with her. So.
Yeah. If she wasn't the first, she was one of the very first, and unfortunately, because we're a two-party system, it didn't get anywhere.
Oh yeah, as per usual, it's the oligarchy, our great oligarchy. Anyway.
I mean, it's unfortunate that it was against his consent, but
yeah, I mean,
that just shows that even then, when people were like, "Oh no, absolutely,
oh no blacks, no women,"
people absolutely had to have believed in him to be like, "Please, please do it,
please help us." I think this was an ideological thing, but after splitting with William Lloyd Garrison, Douglas pursued alliances across racial and ideological lines and adopted an anti-slavery interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. As one should. When criticized by radical abolitionists for engaging with slaveholders under the banner "No Union with Slaveholders," Douglas famously responded, "I would unite with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong." So, I mean, you sometimes you do have to work with people that you aren't perfectly ideologically aligned with.
Yeah.
We can't keep siloing ourselves. Oh my God. Anyway, that's a whole other.
Well, it's like today there are people on both sides of the aisle that they're like, okay, we do want to try to make this work.
Yeah.
But then they turn around and they're assholes about it. So we could
both sides.
We could absolutely use a Frederick Douglass today.
Oh, absolutely.
We've got a few, but we could use some more.
That we could give them more power, I think.
Yeah.
So, but yes, so that's a little deep dive on Frederick Douglass, because very important to mention, and I don't think he's in enough movies, honestly.
Yeah, I will have to look and see if I'm sure there's got to be a biopic about him.
Yeah, I will let Brick continue us down the road. That gives that little coverage.
Yes. Where we left, Harriet was gathering her brothers, and she asks about her sister Rachel, who she's too afraid to escape because she's in the house and she's under constant supervision, and they have her 2 children. But I do want to point out, so the baby that is being brought with them in this escape, Rachel stole laudanum from Eliza to be able to dose the baby so that they could safely.
Yes.
So, you know what? She might have been afraid to run, but holy shit, she could have been killed for that.
Oh, absolutely.
And if anybody listening has a problem with a baby being dosed, you had to make sure that the baby wasn't making noise. You had to make sure the baby wasn't crying. They knew enough.
They knew enough back then.
That is one of the very few things that I did see actual history. That was something that she and other conductors used to keep children from giving themselves away.
Exactly.
Because if you're running with a baby, if I tried running with my 4-year-old going on 5, do you think she's going to keep quiet?
Oh, no.
Like if
my son? Oh my God, no.
Right. If we had to run from...
I will drug them.
Dude, no, if I had to run from a serial killer and I had my daughter, she'd be like, Mommy, can we watch Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
Mommy, I want to play with my monster trucks. As Jason Voorhees comes crashing through the trees.
Oh my God. Yeah. And as a quick note, I did kind of look this up too. One of the notes called it a paragoric, which I hadn't heard that exact word before, but it was a medicine consisting of opium flavored with camphor, aniseed, and benzoic acid, and was at the time used to treat diarrhea and coughing in children. So probably used for a lot of things.
It's probably better than the heroin we used to give them.
So right. So back then they did know. No, it wasn't good to use that. They didn't know, but they knew how to dose it. It wouldn't be like today if we picked up something like that. Oh, right. I think 5 milliliters or something. Like, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and back then it was like you said, they didn't know. It was like giving them Tylenol.
Yeah, it was like, it would be the same thing as us giving them Tylenol, or probably more closely Benadryl thing.
Here, honey, we gotta hide from the serial killer.
Yeah, and
take some Benadryl and melatonin.
And as Brick knows, and I've learned in the last few years, people still do this shit today. Yeah. I've heard like, oh, well, I just gave him some Benadryl to go to bed early and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah.
Yep. So just quick little trauma dump. So I grew up taking Benadryl was part of our nightly routine. By the time I was like 12,
allergies, right?
Right. And by the time I was about 12 or 13, I was having to take 3 or 4 every night. And I was a teenager before I realized it was an allergen. I thought it was something people just took at night. And then I was telling somebody about this the other day, and he was cracking up because he had the same experience. So,
oh my God. Was my mom the only one afraid to give medicine? My mom was afraid to give me medicine, and yet certain relative of mine, I found out, gave his kids Benadryl and stuff to make them go to sleep. Anyway, continue, Brick.
Well, and then like one of the other things that my stepdad liked to do, he would give us a glass, and he called it sleepy water.
Oh my God!
And
I haven't even heard of this one.
He'd be like, here, drink this. And all I knew was it tasted like candy and it burned. And I got really, really tired. So then, or one of the first times I was drinking and I tried peppermint schnapps, somebody's like, have you ever tried this? No. Oh, try it. It's so good. And I took a drink and I was like, oh my God, it's sleepy water. And they looked at me like I was fucking crazy. And I explained it. And then they just looked really sad. But
yes, I haven't even heard this part.
But the guy at work I was talking to the other day, I don't remember why we were on the topic, but he had the exact same experience, but his family called it, I can't remember. They didn't call it sleepy water. They called it something else. But he had
Good
pretty much
water.
the exact same experience.
God. What's wrong with you people? Anyway. So yeah, it's not that different from today.
Yeah, I sure as shit ain't gonna fault him for dosing kids so they could escape alive.
Yeah, escaping alive. Would we do the sleepy time water today? No. Do I want to use sleepy time water? Yes.
Oh, that'd be great,
I don't.
But yeah.
God. Oh my God. All right.
Not gonna lie. There are nights when she's up at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, I know.
Poking me in the face and asking me to watch Scooby-Doo or whatever. And I'm like, I wonder how many melatonin.
Right. Take us back in.
We learn also that Ben, he was able, and Birdy covered this earlier, he was able to buy freedom for Rit. And in the movie, they explain it that it was because when she was originally told that Harriet had died, she was never really mentally sound after that. And Eliza didn't have much use for her and allowed Ben to buy her, which, Jesus fucking Christ, she's free. And he refuses to run himself, though, because he does not want to go until all of his children have made it to freedom.
And he has 9 children, so I get it.
Yep. And, you know, he is still blindfolded, but he hugs them all. He tells them to listen to their sister, and he sends them away. And it's this son's looking back at him. That was very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
As they're leaving, we do see a young black man. He's hiding. He's watching them and he's sketching. But Harriet, she takes the group to the church to Reverend Green. But Robert, he's worried because, as he believes, Reverend Green is preaching obedience. But he does relent when she asks, you know, you don't trust him, but do you trust me? And I love it. Reverend Green opens the door, pulls her in, hugs her. He ushers everybody in, like, very quickly. He's like, yes. When they get inside, he moves the altar and they lift up the floorboard, and the reveal is that there's a ladder and a hiding place underneath the altar, and there are 3 other people, and they can stay there until morning when they have to run. And I love Harriet's looking down and she sees these 3 more people, and the Reverend's just like, word spread fast.
Yeah. And it was spreading.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, like, she was already getting famous. I'm pretty sure by this point, like, she was actually dubbed Moses by this point. So
yeah, and this brings the total, not including herself, 9 people, including the baby, that she is now leading to freedom. The next morning, Eliza is losing her goddamn mind.
Yeah, I did, like, it was so weird because they set up Gideon as like he is the main antagonist, but then you just slowly watch this woman, great actress, as Eliza just slowly become more and more unhinged.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
holy shit.
Lord.
Which is true, because you know what? I like this because, as far as I understand from historical South, yes, the men were in charge and blah, blah, blah. And there was all these damsel bells, but there was way more Scarlett O'Haras out there than one would think.
Yeah.
So the Southern white ladies, there's a reason we still get pissed at them today, because they do have the strength, they do have the intelligence, and yet they use it for evil.
Yeah. She knows 5 slaves have escaped, and she's freaking out. She slaps Rachel, who just was there.
And this is Harriet's sister.
And Gideon starts to question her because it's her brothers who have escaped. So she must know something. She denies any knowledge, but Gideon threatens he's going to sell her daughter and her son, and she relents and she tells him, it was Araminta, she survived and returned. And he doesn't believe her at first, but he gets a group of overseers together to go after them. And while he's riding out to meet with his men, he sees the young black man who had been watching Harriet, and he introduces himself as Walter. He says he's a tracker, and for a fee, he can tell him where the people are heading, and he gives him the drawing that he made of Harriet. So now Gideon knows it really is Minty. She really is alive in here. At first, he just pulls a gun to get the information, but Walter then tells him that he knows Bigger Long, who is the best slave catcher in the area, and he can bring him in to help. He can facilitate an introduction. When Gideon and his men, they meet Walter and Long, this is one of those gross moments where, like, reality how it would have been, but it's just so gross. Yeah. Gideon describes the ones who has escaped as $3 and a female with a foal, and he offers $300 for the return of everyone unharmed, especially Harriet, because he wants to be the one to hurt her. Long tells him that he'll take $200, the others can split the $100, and when asked what he'll spend the money on, he says, quote, enough white whores to last till Lent. And all of the white guys, they cock their guns and, like, get so tense, and then he just busts up laughing at him. Like, it was
off color.
I'm not gonna lie, I fucking cracked up. And we see there are two men, they're waiting on the road. Gideon and the others, they're waiting at the bridge, so they're either side of where the group's going to have to come along. Long is tracking them, and Walter is telling Gideon, they'll have no choice but to come this way. But we see he's kind of keeping an eye on them himself. And I think he's hiding in a tree, but he sees Harriet. She kind of falls to her knees and she's having a vision. And one of the things she sees Gideon drawing a gun. But when she comes out of it, she knows that they can't go to the bridge, and she takes them another way instead. And when they get to the river, Harriet says they need to cross. But everyone is hesitant about this plan. And Robert even tries to get everyone to go follow him and go back to the bridge, but Harriet pulls her gun. He does kind of call her bluff, though. She doesn't shoot him, but she tells him you can either be free or die. And when he turns and he wants everybody to follow, she turns and she just begins wading in and, praying for help. And we see her get about chin deep as everybody's watching, and then she begins to ascend. So she's chosen a safe place in the river to cross. Yeah. Everyone thankfully follows. And when they get to the other side, Harriet tells Robert that she is in charge and they will do as she says. And Walter, by the way, he's witnessed all of this. Yeah. So when he gets back to Gideon, he claims that he lost track of them and they got away. And this is where she saw Gideon pulling a gun. She pulls a gun, but Long prevents him from shooting Walter. But we do see that Harriet manages to get the entire group safely to Philadelphia and to Mr. Still. And that night when Maria's helping Harriet, she's telling her about that John, he's remarried a free woman and they're having a baby. And I love this line. Marie tells her, "You are so far beyond any man I've ever met. What's a man to a woman touched by God?"
Yeah, I did love that line. That's a really nice line.
Yeah. This is where, in the movie at least, Still, he takes Harriet to the secret meeting, which is the committee meeting of the officers, organizers, and conductors of the Underground Railroad. Yep. And we do see a young Frederick Douglass. And Still adds her name to a list of conductors, writing that she freed 9 people, 0 deaths, and they officially welcome her to the committee.
Yeah, and this is about the time that she does start becoming dubbed Moses. But I think this is probably a good spot. End it for now, because we'll be really ramping up on her rescues and everything as we come back in. But we will go ahead and pause here. Please stay tuned for part 2 for Harriet. I hope you guys are enjoying this. There's lots of ranting and trauma dumping. Yeah. So we will get back to you as soon as we can. But in the meantime, thank you for listening to Celluloid Chronicles, a historical movie podcast. Please like and subscribe to us wherever you listen, and we hope you join us again soon.
And always remember,
live like you're making history. And we will make sure that any sources are in the show notes. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Bye.